you couldn't tell based on the advice whether this person was ignorant or deceitful. Hello and welcome to episode 488 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Nathan Fox. With me is Ben Olson. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. We have a free class coming up on Saturday, January 18th. It's called Saturday Brunch LR with Abhi. Abhi had a great teaching review this week that mentioned that Abhi's kind of tough, but like they compared him. They said that Abhi is like your LSAT dad.
Okay.
So he's tough, but he's tough for a reason, because he really wants to get the best out of you.
Okay. Well, there you go. You can go to experience Abhi's toughness yourself.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm sure he's not half as mean as I am in my classes. That again is Saturday, January 18th. You just need an LSAT Demon free account in order to attend. Go to lsat.link/free if you'd like to sign up for that class, and probably access all of our recorded classes that way as well. Well, anyway, with a Demon free account, you can get to all of our recorded free classes. First email on the agenda is from Richard. The subject is sticking with the plan.
All right. Richard writes, "Hey, Ben and Nathan. I've been a Demon subscriber for about 2 months now, and have seen radical improvement in my test comprehension and mindset." Great. Your advice to slow down and solve every question has been particularly helpful as someone who used to rush through to finish every section without 100% accuracy. However, despite acknowledging how useful this advice is and implementing it throughout my drilling and time sections, I sometimes revert to old habits on practice tests after looking at the clock and panicking for time. This leads me to reverting to my old habits, rushing through the section to finish and not doing the work on each question. Any advice on righting myself during the test once I realize that I've done this? When I notice this happening now, I don't have a go-to strategy to adjust my mindset and feel that it affects my entire practice test. Thanks for all the work you do.
I'd rather you just avoid the mistake in the first place. I mean, you're asking like, well, I know I shouldn't spin out on the curves on my motorcycle, but what do I do once I realize I shouldn't go too fast around the corner and like eat shit. But then how do I pick up my bike really fast after I do? And instead, you should be just looking to avoid that mistake in the first place. And I do think that there's one obvious thing here that it doesn't seem like Richard is doing, which is
keeping the clock going. You should hide it.
Yeah.
You can on the Demon, and you can on your official test.
Yeah, you got to just click the clock, Richard, to turn off the clock. Because once you do that, I mean, you will still see a graphical representation of how much time is remaining. And that, hopefully you will learn not to look at that. Although we have heard people putting a sticky note over that so that they don't have to look at it. But if you leave the clock ticking, I think that's your huge mistake, because then you're going to have literally a countdown timer just on the page constantly. And that's not helping you. So I think that's my only tip really for Richard. I don't know, Ben, you want to talk to him about how to pick the bike up off the ground once he's already spun out?
I do. I think there are many accidents that can happen along the way, even when you have the clock hidden. You can read a sentence, it doesn't make sense. You read it again, it still doesn't make sense. And then you start panicking, or I don't know. Something about the passage in general is challenging, or you go through all 5 answer choices and you eliminate them. That's a good thing in most cases, but sometimes people start to panic. So at any of those moments, what you have to realize is the best way out of your current situation is to better understand the content in front of you. And the way to understand that is to break it down into smaller bits than whatever it is that you're dealing with. So if you're struggling on answer choices, you may have to reread the question, and you just reread it carefully and understand what it's trying to ask. Same with the answer choices, same with the passage, in particular, the individual sentences within that passage. So, and to do that, to get in the mindset to do that, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath. And that itself, it's doing two things at once. One, it's calming you down a little bit so you can focus. But two, it's directly countering your inclination to go faster. Like to take a breath during the test is counterintuitive because it's like, oh, I need to keep going. I need to move faster. I need to get to the next question. No,
Mhm.
what you need to do is stop, take the time you need to take a deep breath and refocus on whatever words are right in front of you.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip to just take a deep breath. It slows down your mind and it slows down your body. Well, I think a lot of people believe it slows down your mind by slowing down your body first. Um, but it does like actually lower your heart rate, to take a deep breath. And so
Hmm.
maybe that's what's going on. Richard's feeling that anxiety and just, getting in that race mode and fight or flight kind of thing. And maybe taking a deep breath to just sort of recenter. You do have to remember that, like, the lawyer in the room is the one person who's going to insist that they understand everything they read. So the lawyer in the room, the real lawyer in the room is not the one who finishes the document first. That's not the lawyer.
Yeah.
The lawyer is the one who repeatedly holds up the show on page 1 of the document, asking too many questions, so that you can't everybody's like, "No, we gotta hurry up. We gotta get to lunch." And it's like, "No." Not in lawyer world, we don't. In lawyer world, we have to become the master of this document. So, whatever it takes to slow down and read one sentence at a time, one word at a time, and make sure that the test is feeling easy because it should. If not, you probably got to reread something.
One last thing to add to that is that when you take a deep breath, I've read that it redirects blood in your brain to your prefrontal cortex, which is obviously in high demand while you're taking this test.
Hmm.
So if that's true, yet another
Take a breath.
reason. Yeah.
Hmm.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah, keep us posted. This next email is from DeAndre. The subject is reading comprehension blues. Apparently,
We have a
DeAndre has,
note.
yes, studied with the demons since September.
DeAndre says, I've seen improvement in logical reasoning. Reading comprehension, however, acts as the bane of my existence. I slow down and get either -1 or -2 on each passage, but I'll take well over 15 minutes with a level 1 through 3 passage, and at times I'll take 40 or more minutes on one level 5 passage. I feel like I must do more to improve this section, so I've committed to making reading comprehension the majority of my study time. Hmm. Are there ways I can supplement my study to improve at a faster rate? What ways would you recommend other than just drilling passages? Sounds to me like DeAndre needs to slow down.
I agree with that. The key to unlocking reading comprehension and logical reasoning for that matter, and for the, the test in its entirety, is to get better at reading and understanding individual sentences. I mean, we say it over and over and over again, but you notice how DeAndre says, I've committed, what is it? Oh, yeah, this very last comment. What ways would you recommend other than just drilling passages? It almost sounds like DeAndre, I mean, is taking time to work on these passages, but you're still getting -1 or -2 on each passage. And I'm worried that you're trying to get through the drilling process of the entire passage rather than just mastering the sentence within
Yeah,
each passage until you
yeah,
understand it.
I agree. I would tell DeAndre, stop doing level 5 difficulty passages. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think
you're
the
not there
demon is
yet.
kicking out level 5 difficulty passages to DeAndre ever
Mm-mm. Not
because
in
his
drilling.
accuracy
Yeah.
is really low.
Yeah.
Like, dude, one -1 or 2 passage is not. is not good.
Mm-mm.
What, sorry, I don't think I said that right. -1 or -2 on every passage or each passage. That's not good. I think
Mm.
sometimes people think that they're like, oh yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I only got
No,
one
because
wrong. Yeah, no.
every one you miss is there's another one that you probably just kind of like guessed right, like got it down to a 50-50 and guessed right.
Mhm.
So if you're missing one or two, then I suspect that you don't understand 2 to 4.
On a
Well, that's
6 to
half of the
8,
questions.
yeah,
Yeah,
6 to 8 questions,
right.
that's
Like,
not good. Yeah.
yeah. So DeAndre, I mean, and this is universal advice. I think this goes for absolutely everybody. Your problem on reading comprehension is that you're not comprehending what you're reading. Is that fair to say? You believe that
That's
applies to
yeah.
100% of anybody who says I have a problem on reading comprehension?
Yep. I
Your
agree.
problem is you're not comprehending what you're reading. So, my hypothesis is that you're not spending enough time in the passage. I think you're getting to the questions too quickly, and then it's taking you forever in the questions because you're realizing when you get to the questions that you don't know the answers. But you should know the answers, or you should have a real good idea what the answer should be on at least half of the questions on reading comprehension. It's frequent that I only have to refer back to the passage on like one or maybe two questions. I'm never referring back to the passage on a main point question, primary purpose question, author's tone, attitude, any of those kinds of questions. I got it because I comprehended the passage in the first place. And what frequently happens is, you'll see an expert student and a novice student sitting right next to each other doing the same reading comprehension passage, and the novice finishes at the same time as or before the expert. They finish the passage. Well, that shouldn't be how it goes down because the expert is going to cruise confidently through the questions because they actually comprehended the passage. The novice is going to just get stuck on the very first question and the next question and the next question. And they're going to be constantly going back to the passage, rereading stuff that they didn't comprehend in the first place. And I'm sure, DeAndre, that your reading comprehension blues are related to you just not reading carefully enough in the first place. So slow way down, do less work, but get paid more for the work you're doing. And there's no reason why you can't be successful on reading comp if you are successful on logical reasoning. The fact that DeAndre knows how much time has elapsed on a passage,
Mm.
like I don't care. That's not like DeAndre thinks that, see, because now there's an example of it seems like he's trying to go fast instead of just like really only like we really, really, truly only care about your accuracy. If you took 40 minutes on a level 1 passage, but you got them all right, I would be proud of your progress. I would be like, great, you're getting it. You can slow down, you can answer the questions with accuracy. That's great. But if it took you, like DeAndre probably would be happy if it was like, oh yeah, I missed one or two and it only took me 8 minutes. DeAndre would think that that's like great progress because right now it's currently taking him 15.
Mm.
But that actually wouldn't be progress at all because you wouldn't be making progress on accuracy. I just I don't care. I care that you do reliable legal work. Like you have to be able to solve these questions and know that you're getting them right. That's the only way we're ever going to transform your score, DeAndre. You got to stop trying for marginal improvements and instead go for the really big win, which is related to just, this commitment that I'm going to understand everything that I read before I move on to the next bit. That's the only way we can improve somebody's LSAT score by 25 or 30 points, which we see happen sometimes, right? Is that that
Yeah.
they like the big
They're hoping
lesson.
for a shortcut.
Yeah. The big lesson is stop trying for shortcuts, stop trying to go fast, stop trying to squeak out one or two more LSAT points. Stop trying to cut it down from 15 minutes to 13 minutes. None of that's good. The only thing that's
Mm.
good is
Mhm.
get your accuracy down to -0. If you do that, then I know that you're going to make like that's going to get you the next big win. And those big wins, it's I don't know. It's like scoring touchdowns instead of kicking field goals.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
Anything more
more.
for DeAndre?
You
Okay.
know, as yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking, you, you repeatedly talk about getting paid for the work that you do as you're going through the passage, right? Did you read that
Yeah.
sentence and understand it? Are you getting paid for reading that sentence? Or are you not getting paid and moving on to the next sentence, finishing the passage, but not getting paid for any of that work? And so you actually have to
Yeah.
go back and do it again. But the same is true for the entire passage. If you're getting one or two wrong, especially consistently from passage to passage, that means you're not getting paid for each passage. So
Right.
essentially, you're studying and not getting paid. Do you want to get paid for your work? Then get this down to -0, occasionally -1. That's fine. But let's try to get 100% accuracy as much as possible so that you know you're getting paid for every passage you work on.
Yeah, you're getting more out of your study time. So it's gonna transform your
Mhm.
score in the long run. It's gonna make it so that you're like getting exponential growth in the study time that you put in instead of this like marginal linear progress that people think they're gonna make by going too fast. You're you're not paid for how quickly you move things out of your inbox. You're paid for whether you move things accurately out of your inbox. Like you've got to get them, they can't be coming back. And that's what those -1, -2s are, right? That's just going to get rejected. Hopefully, you get rejected by an associate manager instead of it getting to the client or the court or, the partner who's going to fire you. You got to start catching those mistakes yourself so that you can get paid for the work you do. Next one up is from Bridger. Bridger wrote an email that had a subject that was Kansas law poaches undergrads. And that inspired Eric to ask the question, what's the deal with University of Kansas School of Law?
Okay. So,
I'm excited about this one because I've had previous run-ins with the University of Kansas School of Law. And so I want to know what the deal is.
yeah, what is the deal? So let's start here. This is part of Bridger's email. If you want to
Yep.
see something crazy about ABAs, you should look into University of Kansas's ABA report. Their 509 report only reports a per credit tuition, not total tuition, muddying the waters.
Yeah. So it's reporting tuition and fees as per credit, $1,000 a credit for full time. I mean, I think you can fairly assume that it's that times 30, right? Like 15 credits a semester. I think it's going to be 14 or 15 credits per semester. So I think you can just take that times 30, and that's probably their tuition.
Yep. Or you can look on their website. A lot of times we see this with the 509 reports a lot. These numbers get reported as credits or they get reported as by semester as opposed to by year. And you just have to say, wait a sec, those numbers don't look right and look elsewhere.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Kansas ranked 46th in the country, by the way.
mm-hmm.
I just wanted to take a quick peek at our roll call tool. You can go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships to look up any school. We have links there to the 509 reports, but we also have, if you just click on any school name, we have our tuition roll call, which is a graphical representation of who's paying for law school. And I can see that at Kansas, there's twice as many people there on full ride scholarships as there are people paying full price. Actually, there's almost
Hmm.
3 times as many people there on full ride scholarships as there are people paying full price.
Wow. Yeah.
So, pretty clear that this is not a place where you want to pay full price or really anything close to full price.
Yeah.
Um, on their 509 report, we can see that, yeah, 85% of the class is getting some kind of a grant. 22% full tuition scholarships, plus another 15% more than full tuition. So you got 37% of the class who's paying nothing or even getting paid to go to the school.
Yeah. So what we got a bunch of information here. I guess Eric acknowledged that the 509 report does say per credit.
Oh, and then on page 1, it says number of credit hours required to earn the JD,
Is
90.
90.
So, like I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
it's times 30 per year is the amount. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Eric has a note here about conditional scholarships. KU's admissions FAQ page says KU law scholarships are funded by a number of different foundations and funds, and the retention requirements may vary depending on which scholarship students have received. Oh, that's interesting. In addition to the requirement to maintain full time status, most of our scholarships require students to maintain a 3.0 minimum cumulative GPA beginning at the end of a student's first year. Okay, this minimum was set because it corresponds closely to the median GPA of our first year class, which is 3.03 in 2022 to 2023. Okay,
Okay.
so you got to do better. You got to do better than half the class.
Yeah, and that's not like that's not a crazy requirement.
Mm-hmm.
The requirements that are the real gotcha conditional scholarship requirements are when they say you need a 3.0 and the average GPA is a 2.7, or
Mm-hmm.
when they say you
Mm-hmm.
need a 3.3 and the average GPA is a 2.7 or a 3.0. Um this is going to impact some people though, right?
For sure.
I
I
mean,
mean, you have to do better than half. So you have a 50-50 chance of potentially losing it.
well, at a school like this, you better be in the top half anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not in the top half at this school, your job outcomes are not going to be looking good. I can promise you that from here. Like, you're not, because hardly anybody is going to go to a school like this and be, just totally killing it in big law. That doesn't happen really from schools like this.
Yeah.
So, some slim portion of the class, I'm sure, goes into big law, but the vast majority don't. And so, if you're going to go to this school, you want to make sure that you're probably above the top half. You probably want to be like in the top quarter or top decile at a school like this to give yourself really, you know, positive outcomes. The kinds of outcomes that people think every lawyer has, fancy suit, driving a Mercedes, going to some high-rise office tower, masters of the universe.
Yeah.
That that's just not what most lawyers do, and it's certainly not what most lawyers do at a school that's ranked 46th in the country. But we were talking about conditional scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a table on the American Bar Association 509 report, and they are required to report how many people enter with and then have their scholarships reduced or eliminated. What do those numbers look like, Ben?
Yeah. So in the most recent academic year, 115 entered with a scholarship. 26 of those were reduced or eliminated. Is that right? So this is entering or is this total? Oh, this is, yeah, students matriculating in 2023 to 2024. Okay. So 115 of them got a scholarship and 26 of those were lost.
Yep.
So, it's a little less than 25%. A quarter of the scholarships are lost. What struck me is this last in what Eric was noting from their FAQ page. It says most of our scholarships require students to maintain a 3.0 minimum cumulative GPA. Okay, so what is true about the other scholarships? Do they not have requirements, or are those requirements more stringent? I mean, this is definitely a situation for anyone getting a scholarship is to read the fine print.
Yeah. Read the fine print of your particular scholarship offer at every school. that sends you a scholarship offer, which most schools do give scholarships to like 85% of their class, because this is not really scholarships. It's just discounting. I mean, that's all that's going on here. You can draw some inferences, I think, from this table talking about reduced or eliminated. Ben, you're saying it's about 20%. That looks like it stayed fairly consistent, right? It was
Mhm.
13% people lost their scholarship or had it reduced in 2021, 2022. Then there were the next year it was pretty much exactly 20%. Then the next year it was again about 20%.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think you have to look at that and you have to go, all right, so if I'm a scholarship recipient, which almost everyone is at Kansas, then you have about a 20% chance that you're going to lose that scholarship or it's going to be reduced. I
Mhm.
don't think that's the kiss of death, though, because what I would always say next is that, dropping out of law school is an option. And I really do. I really believe that if you go to a school like this on a scholarship and they want to take their scholarship away from you, you should probably just drop out. I mean, like what's happening is they're telling you a price and then they're telling you, "Oh, yeah, based on your first year performance, your price is actually going to be higher next year." I mean, think it through.
Yeah.
You came in there with the best of intentions, like you knew that it was an academic competition. You thought that you were going to be killing it. You're not killing it. You thought that the price was going to be X, turns out the price is going to be 2X because you didn't perform well academically. So they're going to charge you more for less, basically, because your GPA is now set in stone. Like the best job outcomes have probably already kind of flown out the window for you.
Mhm.
Like when they're taking away the scholarship dollars, it's also a pretty good representation of job outcomes that you're no longer going to be entitled to either.
Yeah.
So it's now going to cost you more and you're going to get less out of your JD. Dropping out is always an option. People hate that
I
advice,
mean,
but
they do hate that advice, but you also have to recognize exactly what's happening. Why would the school charge you more after they've already accepted you and gotten to report your GPA and LSAT? Well, now they're looking at you as a student and saying, hey, you're not doing as well as we thought you were going to do, which means you're not as likely to do well when you graduate. So you're worth less to us because you're not going to help us with our numbers when you graduate, or you're not as likely to help us
yeah,
with our numbers
yeah.
when you graduate.
They're also trying to be sleazy in the
And
first place
yeah.
by giving conditional scholarships, right?
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
it's
They've
like
caught you, right? You're now stuck in a program, or at
it
least you feel like
right.
you are.
Yeah, it is a gotcha sort of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once we started reporting these, Eric and I talked about this on a recent episode of Demon Daily, that this table, this grants, this conditional scholarships table, this didn't always exist on the 509 report. And when they added it to the 509 report, it actually impacted what law schools did,
Mm-hmm.
because law schools started realizing, oh shit, we're getting a lot of bad publicity because we take away so many scholarships.
Yeah.
And so many schools started saying, we don't grant we have no conditional scholarships. Kansas hasn't yet gotten that memo. Kansas is still trying to get away with this.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they're doing is they're giving more scholarships than they know they're going to actually fund. Right? They know going in that if the median GPA of the class is 3.0 and they're requiring a 3.0 to keep their scholarships and they're giving scholarships to 85% of the class, like this is an LSAT question, by the way. I mean, we could write an LSAT question about this, right? This is the type of math that would be on the
Yeah.
LSAT.
Yeah. Yeah.
If 85% of the class gets a scholarship, and if you are required to maintain the median GPA in the class in order to keep your scholarship, then it must be true
Yeah.
that 35% of the incoming class, I guess, in that case, would
Mm-hmm.
lose their scholarship. Something's not quite, the numbers aren't adding up there, but that is what's going on. It's
Yeah.
like an airline selling more tickets than they have seats on the plane. Um,
And not losing sleep at night because they know people aren't going to show. They
yeah,
know
well,
people aren't going to make the cut. Yep.
here they just mathematically know that it's not possible that, more than half the class is going to finish
Yeah.
in the top half
Yeah.
of the class. That's
Yep.
just not possible.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, these are semi gotcha scholarships. I think a lot of people are going to go in, though, if you go into it with your eyes wide open here, if you're like, oh, well, yeah, but my LSAT's 8 points above the median and my GPA is 0.2 of a point above the median, and I know I'm going to work my ass off. You're a pretty good bet to maintain your scholarship. 80% of the people do maintain their scholarship. But if you're
Hmm.
one of those 20% that it doesn't work out for, I would stop throwing good money after bad. And I would just say, okay, well, that didn't work out,
Yep.
and just walk away. I mean, they are going to charge you more for the
Or
next
less.
year, and you are going to get less than the average person in the class. Yes, because you've already shown that you're not winning the academic competition.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like Bridger's email continues.
Yeah. So Bridger writes, I'm a current undergraduate pre-law student here at KU, and I have heard you speak about Kansas poaching their undergrads. This is so true. They shoved the 100% bar passage rate in our face.
Eric says, that is KU's ultimate 2-year pass rate for 2021. They share more bar exam performance data on their website. KU also advertises free post-grad bar prep for its students. So
Wait.
it sounds like they're making a big deal about selling their bar passage rate.
Hold on. How is that 100% calculated? Are you telling me that every soul that graduates from KU Law eventually passes the bar? Or are we only looking at those who attempt to pass the bar? There must be some, like, that can't be everyone.
I doubt that it's everyone. I don't know that I want to take the time to try to dig into it, but I'm if it's a 2-year eventual bar passage rate, it's probably of those who continue to who
Yeah.
continue to try after 2
Well,
years.
yeah, we don't need to figure it out. It's just a bold claim. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
are people interpreting that, and what does it actually mean? I don't think it means as
Yeah.
much as people think.
I mean, and it's like it's a hard sorry, it's a bold claim, but it's also like not a bold claim, because the truth is that the Kansas overall bar passage rate, I'm talking about the state of Kansas
Mm,
bar
mm-hmm,
exam.
mm-hmm.
I just looked that up, and the state of Kansas bar exam, July 2024 bar exam overall pass rate 76%. So
Hmm.
it's not like Kansas has a hard bar anyway. I mean, University of Kansas is definitely or KU is the best law school in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kansas bar isn't that hard to pass relative to a place like, California, where sometimes the bar passage rate's going to be like 34%.
Really? It's that low? I thought 70 was low or considered low. You're saying for first time attempts.
I, yeah, I got to be clear about what I'm doing quick Googling here, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, shit. The internet has gotten so bad these days that it's like hard to really is it just me, or did the internet get way worse? I feel like the internet got way worse. Like,
Like accuracy of information or overload
oh
of
yeah.
information.
Well,
Yeah.
because you've got like AI generated spam websites that are winning the SEO battles, right? And
Mm-hmm.
making it to the top. Or you've got Google just like using AI to spit out answers that are just like, what? Where'd that number come from?
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Do we think we can trust NCBE?
Maybe.
National Conference of Bar Examiners.
Okay. Possibly. Yeah.
All right. July 2024 bar exam. The table below lists percentage pass rates for the July 2024 bar exam as reported by each jurisdiction following release of their exam results. Blah, blah, blah. California, July 2024 bar exam, 54% pass rate.
Hmm.
Kansas, 76% pass rate. Kansas breaks down their information a little bit further. California did not. But Kansas has a first time pass rate of 81% and then a repeater pass rate of 39%. Wow. And that's only 156 examinees compared to 8,291 who took it in California. Huh. Kansas is small.
Yeah.
Okay, so just scanning this though, Kansas is a relatively easy bar to pass. I mean, compared to a lot of other places,
Mm.
I see. So for this is just for one exam, but Alaska 64%, Alabama 57%, again California 54%, Michigan 64, Nevada 65, New York 69, New Mexico 69, Jersey 65. What did I see a second ago? Florida, it was also low, 65. Connecticut 63. Yeah, so like there's Kansas is kind of an easier bar.
Mm. Mhm.
Uh
Okay.
anyway, not sure how helpful that is to
So
anybody.
that's yeah. So they're trying to sell their school based on the fact that you can pass the bar. Bridger writes, most KU undergrads I meet only believe that they can improve their cold diagnostic by 10 points, and that most people max at 160 to 164 LSAT.
So they haven't changed their scam at all since I started talking about, my experience with them
So they were
on the
saying
show.
these same numbers. They were
Well,
actually
I'll tell
saying,
my story
yeah.
again.
Okay.
I got invited by a student to go speak to the KU pre-law. I think I can't remember which pre-law society it was, but it was some pre-law org
Was this in
at
person
KU.
or
Nope. No,
okay,
this was
virtual?
still this was Zoom days. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I've driven through Kansas, but I have not ever
Yeah.
intentionally gone to Kansas. Um so I but I was shocked. I mean, I'm still like I'm still shocked by it. I still this it was one of the phases of my development toward realizing how shady law schools actually are.
Mm, mhm.
Was this meeting where I was there to talk about the LSAT, and there was a pre-law advisor there. So
Mhm.
this is the KU undergrad pre-law advisor
Yeah.
who was also from the KU law admissions department.
Yeah.
So this is someone who works at KU law who is the undergrad advisor for KU undergrads. Okay, now like I think on the surface, oh yeah, what's wrong with that? Who better to prepare these people?
Then
Who
someone
better
on
to
the
give these people
inside.
advice?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yeah, but there are 200 law schools in the country. And this person from KU Law, their motivation is to get these people to apply to KU Law. And as I would find out in this meeting, really giving detrimental advice to the undergrads.
Mhm.
And that advice included most people don't score above 160,
Mm.
which I guess is mathematically true because the median LSAT is like 154 or something, 152, right? Um, so I guess it's mathematically true that most people don't score over 160. But they delivered that message, and they just confidently said most people don't improve when they retake the LSAT. Most people don't score over 160. If you've got a 160, you should just go ahead and apply. And at that point, I had a hypothesis. I was like, oh, I wonder what KU Law's median LSAT is. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's exactly 160. And so, you know, could be could be ignorance. It could just be that this person like only knew about KU Law,
Yeah.
and they just what they see at KU Law is, yeah, well, we don't get a lot of 170s applying here. Because why would you if you have a 170? Like, unless you just have real deep roots in Kansas, I don't see any reason to apply to KU law with a 170. You could get full
Hmm.
rides at much better schools. And maybe they've never seen anybody actually improve, which stands to reason, I think, when we see the rest of what Eric's got on the agenda for us here.
Hmm.
But I just was shocked because I'm looking at, like, I mean, it's a room full of 18-year-olds, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, just kids who are earnest about wanting to, like, build legal careers for themselves.
Yeah.
And you've got this KU law salesperson there in the guise of pre-law advising, giving advice that is just actively detrimental to the students' actual career success. Because surely those students will have
Yeah.
doors open to them if they do real LSAT prep, if they actually get the best LSAT they can achieve. This KU law person was not willing. It didn't even seem like she was willing to contemplate the idea that there are better law schools that these kids could go to than
Mm.
KU law. So
Hmm.
could be drinking the Kool-Aid, could be ignorance, or it could be something much more nefarious where it's just like, yep, I'm a salesperson. I get paid based on commission. All I do, my whole job is to get people to apply to KU, and I'll tell them whatever I got to tell them to get them to apply.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the outcome would be the same either way, right? I mean, like, you couldn't tell based on the advice whether this person was ignorant or deceitful. It is not in the best interest of an undergrad to tell them that they're not likely to score higher than 160. It is not in the best interest of an undergrad to tell them that most people don't improve by more than 10 or whatever points. Because even if it's true that most people don't score higher than 160, some people do. And those kids are there to, like, grow.
Hmm. And
It's super condescending, by the way.
yeah.
It's, like, so insulting. You're basically like, well, you guys are probably not going to score higher than 160. You guys are not going to be the people who fill up a full class at Harvard every year of 500 people. Or, you know, like 40 schools that are better than us in the US News rankings. You're not going to be, you're KU type of people. you're you're going to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, Bridger is confirming exactly what you're saying and what you experienced in your story. Bridger writes, most undergrads are brainwashed to believe that KU is the best law school they can get into. The pre-law advisor here harps on going to KU Law. Not to mention, I know a handful of Kansas law students who believe that Kansas places people outside of Kansas in markets like Dallas and Chicago, yet their employment shows basically Kansas and Missouri.
As one would expect. I mean, like, who's heard of KU law? Nobody besides people in Kansas. It's
Yeah.
just not like, if you take the typical person in California or New York, or for that matter, Texas, or Illinois, and you say, does Kansas have a law school? They're going to go, probably. I mean, you know, it's not
Everywhere
like
has a law school, so probably, yeah.
exactly. There's 200 of them in the country, so odds are pretty good. Should we look at the employment outcomes?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, tiny law school, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
2023, Kansas graduated 77 students. Sorry, graduated 90 students.
Mm-hmm.
Of those, they claim 77 employed in bar passage required jobs, another 6 in JD Advantage jobs, whatever that means. 1 law school or university funded job, 2 in other positions, and 4 people unemployed.
Yep.
But let's break that down a little bit. How
So,
many big law jobs do we actually see here?
yeah, if you define big law as a law firm with 250 or more people or attorneys, 250 or more attorneys, then we're looking at 10 people.
Yeah. I think you can fairly add federal clerkships onto
Sure.
that because federal clerkships usually, if you can get a federal clerkship, by the way, not a state, local, any other kind of clerkship, but a federal clerkship, if you can get those, then normally there is a path into big law if you want it. And so they did place 6 people into federal clerkships. So if you add up, um, yeah, you got 10 people in firms of 250 or more plus 6 federal clerkships. You're looking at 16 out of 90. What is that, 20%?
Yeah, 20%. So look at that. Um 20%
Actually,
of
it's only 18%.
oh, it's less than that.
Yeah.
Well, 15 to 20, it's going to vary from year to year, but you got 20% of the folks losing their scholarships and you have the top 20% going to big law. A lot of people in the middle, but
Yeah, I mean, and just to go back to the grants and scholarships table,
yeah.
which is, buried on the 3rd page of their 509 report. Looking at that grants and scholarships table, 15% of the class is there on a more than full tuition scholarship. Another 22% of the class is there on a full tuition scholarship. Who do you think's getting the big law jobs, Ben?
More likely than not, it's those 15%. I mean, it matches
Or the
up almost,
22%?
or the 22, but it's almost certainly coming from those groups. But notice it's not the full 22%, right? Because only 15 to 18% went on to big law or clerkships or federal
Oh, not even.
clerkships.
No,
Yeah,
look, that's 37%
yeah,
that are there on full tuition or better.
yeah.
But
So half of
what
those.
was it? With a 17.5% big law placement rate.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's like half of the people who get full rides are going to come out of Kansas making big money.
yeah. So if you're losing your scholarship,
Oh my God.
you're in trouble, right? Because even if
Oh,
you maintain
yeah.
your full tuition scholarship, you only got a 50% chance of being one of those folks who walks away with a high paying job.
I mean, now, of course, there are outliers, like you can send us hate mail, go to thinkinglsat.com and pop off. Tell us how stupid
We
we
don't
are.
care about the people who beat the odds
Yeah.
and made
There
money.
are exceptions to the rule. We understand that. But we also know that exceptions to the rule are exceptional and that most people are not going to be, right? Like of 100 people hearing this podcast, one of you might be the exception to these rules. But, for majority of people, you're going to have the mathematical majority outcome. If they have
Yeah.
a
And
17%
it's
bar
going to be a
passage
lot more
rate,
painful to be in the losing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If they have an 18% bar passage rate, but they have 37% of the people there on full rides, it, it is extremely unlikely that the 15% of the class who is paying full price is going to get one of those big time jobs. And, why? Like, what might be the causal mechanism for that? Why do we suspect that? Well, look, their 75th percentile LSAT is 163, but their 25th percentile LSAT is only 156. There's a difference between 156 and 163. There's a difference in how much you're comprehending. You're just not understanding as much of what you read when you're getting a 156. Grades too.
Yeah.
25th
Yeah.
percentile LSAT, or sorry, 25th percentile GPA is a 3.59, while the 75th percentile GPA is a 3.89. Who do you think big firms want to hire? The type of people who get 3.89 GPA or the people who get 3.59 GPA? Like the big firms require perfection. So they don't hardly even hire at KU to begin with. Because even at the top of the range, 163, 3.89, I don't know, like the big law, like the big time lawyers probably did better than that in undergrad and probably got a 170 something on the LSAT.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's the one it's the big law firms that have offices in Kansas,
Yeah.
and they need people to fill those offices, and KU may be the only place they can get those folks.
Yeah, because people, and people at Harvard, Stanford, Yale, most of the other schools in the top 14 are like, Kansas? I'm not going to Kansas.
Yeah.
So sure, there are some big firms in Kansas that are going to hire from KU Law. But look, only 15% of KU grads go on to big law. And again, or sorry, what was it? 18%. 18% of KU grads go on to big law. It's probably going to be the people who entered with the higher LSAT, higher GPA, because those are the people who are likely to get good grades in their 1L year. This is like, if you want to go be a big fish in this small pond, you got to be a big fish in that small pond. Like, you got to go kick ass and get straight A's and be top of your class. And then even then, your best outcome is going to be big law in one of these states. Do we have Eric wanted us to address their claim, or the idea that many KU law students have, that they're going to go work in Dallas or Chicago. But
Oh,
Bridger
yeah.
says no.
Yeah, so wait, where are we looking? Yeah, I'm just looking at the bottom of the employment report, right? This is again an ABA required disclosure document.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it says the largest employment, it goes to Kansas. 35 graduates go there. 30 go to Missouri, and 4 go to Illinois.
And 0 in Texas, apparently. Or I suppose there could be 3 or 2 or 1 that went to Texas,
Sure.
if this form only reports the top 3
Yeah.
states, which
But
probably it does.
your chances of going there are very slim. So if you're going there to go to Dallas or Chicago, good luck. You got to be the biggest fish.
Where is Lawrence, Kansas, by the way? I'm guessing it's close to the Missouri border.
It's got to be. Yeah. I mean, doesn't Kansas City straddle it?
Lawrence, Kansas is between Topeka and Kansas City, but it is on the Kansas City side. And yes, Kansas City is on the border of Kansas City and Missouri. So actually, those people who are employed in the state of Missouri are going to be overwhelmingly employed in Kansas City, Missouri. That makes sense. It all adds up. So, yeah, I mean, this is a school that you go to if you want to work in Kansas.
Okay.
I would say only if you want to work in
Yeah.
Kansas.
Only if.
Because if you want to work in Kansas,
You
but
could
you got,
go somewhere else. Yeah.
oh God, there's a million schools that you like, for example, if you had a full ride to Wash U in St. Louis,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might rather live in Kansas City than live in St. Louis. I've never been to Kansas City, but I still don't think that's that bold of a claim because I have been to St. Louis. I think I might rather live in Kansas City than live in St. Louis. But Wash U is a much better law school.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a scholarship to Wash U, I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't take that. Now, if you can't get the scholarship to Wash U, but you do get the scholarship to Kansas, and you know that you want to build a legal career in Kansas City, then in that case, I can see how KU law could make a lot of sense for you. But this is not the school to go to if you're looking to get out of Kansas, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And that's that's just the shocking thing, like this, again, back to that pre-law advisor who traumatized me. This was 4 or 5 years ago, by the way, and we've been talking about it on the podcast since then, and apparently nothing has changed. So we are indeed just shouting into the void. But but this is a pre-law advisor. It's the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Who's really there to sell KU law, giving KU undergrads this advice that is likely to just trap them in Kansas. these are these are young, like I don't know. I mean, that would lead me to then tell parents of high schoolers to be very careful about sending your kid to KU
Well,
unless
look
you
at this
want to
part,
trap your
right?
kid in Kansas, which
Yeah,
they
I
probably
mean,
do. Parents like to do that, like to do shit like that.
they're
But
like,
anyway,
yeah, yeah, keep my kid close. Well,
yeah.
look at this. I mean, that's exactly what KU is doing. So its pre-law advising website includes information for prospective students. In other words, high schoolers.
Yeah, those have to be high schoolers if you're, or I guess community college students. But yeah,
Sure. Prospective students to KU, not KU Law. On this page, they answer frequently asked pre-law questions like, I know I want to go to KU for law school and my bachelor's degree. Okay.
who says that?
Yeah, who knows that they
First of
want to
all,
do
that's
that?
like
That's
that's
like
like going to
planting
the
a seed,
website.
right?
Yeah, exactly. You go to like the you know, Cal Worthington car dealership website, and it's like, how do I buy a used car from Cal Worthington car dealership today? How do I qualify for easy financing and cashback dealer incentives?
How do
Oh,
I?
That's a frequently asked question.
It's the
You
number
have no
one.
idea how many people are asking us that question. Every day, people are asking us, how do I buy a car from Cal Worthington today?
Who the hell is this? Or is this
Cal Worthington?
Yeah, is this somebody?
No, there were these hilarious commercials on when I was a kid that were like, go see Cal, go see Cal, go see Cal. They
Oh,
had like
wow.
this jingle. So Cal Worthington was the first car
It's-
shady car dealer that came to mind.
That worked for you, apparently. How can I apply to the Legal Education Accelerated Degree Program? In other words, the lead program. Oh, I could be a leader.
Every high school junior that I've ever spoken to, Ben, has wanted to. It's just a burning question. They're sitting there on TikTok on their phone while they're watching 4 different movies at once on the split screen on the TV.
Yeah.
And they're just asking me, I know I want to go to KU for law and my bachelor's degree. How can I apply to the Legal Education Accelerated Degree Program? LEAD, by the way. That's the very forced acronym for you there. Legal Education Accelerated Degree, so that they could have LEAD.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've talked about this program on the show before. That's the one where
It's a 3+3.
yeah, they let you do undergrad in 3 years and then law school in 3 years. The KU pre-law homepage also encourages current students to meet with a pre-law advisor and provide a list of sample questions to bring to your pre-law advisor, one of which relates to the LSAT. How can I balance coursework with LSAT preparation?
Yeah, you probably
yeah.
shouldn't be. You should probably be focusing on your grades.
Mm-hmm.
But these people at KU, I mean, it's clear that their pre-law advisors like work for the law school. And the law school thinks that you should go ahead and get your mediocre grades and your mediocre LSAT at the same time so that you can head straight into their very mediocre law school.
Eric kept digging. Apparently, on KU Law's admissions FAQ page, they offer a discounted LSAT prep course. And then KU's website repeatedly names the prep course ETC Test Prep, but when you follow the link, you discover that it's OTC Test Prep. All right, thanks, Eric.
What is OTC Test Prep?
Online test
Online
consultants.
testing consultants.
Oh, testing, yeah.
Fuck. They got a giant generic gavel at the top of their homepage.
That looks AI generated.
They have live online courses. They also have on-campus courses. They also do GRE and GMAT test prep. And it's like, yeah,
these courses are only a month long.
Well, yeah, because they don't want to give people actual LSAT prep. If people got actual LSAT prep, they would end up scoring so much higher than Kansas medians that no one would sensibly go to Kansas. So
Yeah.
this is all part of their scheme here, right? We're
Mhm.
seeing this whole package that is just oriented toward how do we get people into Kansas law? That's all we care about is getting people to KU law. It's self-dealing.
It is
It's
self-dealing. Well, look at this comment too. Who should take this course? And then it tells you what the LSAT is. And then it says, we recommend that students take the LSAT test prep class as close to their chosen exam date as possible.
yeah. That's like code for I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like tell me you don't understand LSAT prep without telling me you don't understand LSAT prep. It's like a secret, like if I was ever trying to figure out whether I was talking to real Ben or like some AI
Sure.
fake Ben,
Yeah, yeah.
I'd be like, "Hey Ben, if you got a brand new student, when should they take the LSAT? And when should they prep for it?" And it'd be like a check. And if Ben was like, "Oh, well, they should take the prep class, right? They should schedule their
They should
test and then
warm
they
up.
should take their prep class right before that."
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would know I was talking to fake AI Ben.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so for this ETC/OTC test prep class that, it says Eric has pasted in here, among the topics covered by this course, logical concepts, including inferences involving conditional statements and the key tool of counterexamples. Next bullet, mastering time management skills.
Oh,
Next
great.
bullet, identifying keywords in the question that indicate how to use the passage to find the correct answer.
Oh my God.
And last one, recognizing the correct answer after narrowing the choices down to 2.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Wow. That's
it
bad.
it it is possible again, like it doesn't have to be purely just nefarious. It doesn't have to be purely just deceitful. It could be that these people are actually ignorant about LSAT prep. And I want to be generous to them and assume that that's the
I
case,
think
that
that's a
that
very
they're
likely
actually
situation.
ignorant.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can't tell from their behavior because like, if that's all that if they were really just like on commission and trying to get people into KU, but they knew the actual truth, they could still be giving the exact same advice they're
Yeah.
giving now. But if they knew
Yeah.
what they were talking about when it comes to LSAT prep, if they really wanted what's best for their students, they would not be talking about time management. They would be talking about accuracy instead. They would not be talking about using the question to figure out how to use the passage. They would also not be talking about what to do after you've narrowed it down to 2, because it's much better to just not narrow it down to 2 in the first place. And in fact, good LSAT students are going to narrow it down to 0 far more often than they're going to narrow it down to 2. So
Mhm.
this is just bad advice after bad advice after bad advice. And, in light of that, it's not surprising that they have this impression, oh yeah, most people don't improve more than 10 points. Most people don't score higher than 160. Well, yeah, if you do that stuff, you're not going to improve by more than 10 points if you're going to improve at all.
Mhm.
And you're not going to score higher than 160, probably.
Yeah.
If you do dumb shit like that, oh boy. What's the deal with KU law?
Only go if you're getting a stipend. That's my advice.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, and again, we don't think that this system is fair. We don't think that law schools should be able to charge everybody a different price. But that is the system. And because that's the system that we're stuck with until the ABA or the US Department of Education, gets off their asses and does something to correct this, law schools are going to continue to price discriminate. They're going to charge everybody a different price. And at a school like KU Law, there's 37% of the people at the school are paying 0.
Yeah.
And a big chunk of them are actually getting paid to go there. And the chunk of people who are going to get high paying jobs in percentage terms is almost exactly the same as the chunk of people who are getting paid to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ben's advice then is, well, geez, if I want the best outcome for myself or if I want the best outcome for my kids, then we better not be paying tuition at a school like this. We better be going for free, or as Ben says, nah, they're going to have to cut me a check if I'm going to go there. Because otherwise, I just, there's no value for your money here. You're going to get one of these worthless JDs that sets you up for an unsatisfying, and I mean that in terms of compensation as well as probably like satisfaction with your career. You're just not going to end up with a satisfying outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are at a school like this, unless you're at the very top. Like you got to be in that top sliver. Nothing can ensure that that's going to happen, by the way. Even if you are there on a stipend, it still might not work out for you. But at least you're diminishing the financial risk. You just don't want to be one of the few people. There's 15% of the people that are paying full price. You do not want to be one of those people who's left holding the bag at a school like this. Should we talk about an even worse school?
Yeah, let's do it. So this one is from Anonymous G. And the subject is, what's the deal with Washburn University School of Law?
The email says, we're not going to do a full what's the deal with for Washburn, but this is Anonymous G's email. It says, hello, demons. When I was 18, I had a meeting with my advisor and my parents about what I wanted to do with my degree. The answer, of course, was practice law. My advisor's face lit up because she was also the pre-law advisor. I want to be clear. This woman is a great inspiration to me now that I'm a senior, but I feel her ignorance is damaging. She has never been to law school, and she has never taken the LSAT. She told me the school has just created the Law School Early Acceptance Program, or LEAP for short, where all I have to do is get an official LSAT score of 145 or higher and keep my undergraduate GPA at 3.0. In this program, your first year of law school functions as dual credit for the senior year of your bachelor's. What a deal! I was excited to be graciously accepted into Washburn's program. I would have started law school this fall if I did not discover this podcast. Thank you for that. P.S. Do you think I have a moral obligation to tell my advisor the harm she is doing? So there's some sarcasm there in that email. It was a little bit unclear, but I think my interpretation of Anonymous G is that when they first heard about this program, they were excited and thought it was so great.
I didn't read that as a sarcasm. Maybe it's sarcasm now, I guess, but
I think that's what
I think it was sincere when it happened.
At the time.
Yeah. I was excited.
Yeah. But now Anonymous G is looking at that and going, holy shit.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a total trap.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a way for the school to get 2 more years of tuition dollars from you. We only get 3 to 4 years, or maybe 4 to 5 years from most undergrads. How can we extend their tuition payments? Offer them dual credit for their senior year so they can pay us for 2 more years.
Yeah. Washburn School of Law, just really quickly, is in Topeka, Kansas. So not far from KU Law. Median LSAT 154, median GPA 3.59. They give stipends to 11% of the class, and another 3% are getting a full tuition scholarship. There are only 3% of the people in the class who are paying full price. This program seems oriented toward entrapping people into paying full price for a very shitty law school, because a 145 and a 3.0 UGPA puts you below the 25th percentile for both LSAT and GPA at Washburn School of Law.
Wow.
So yeah, this is a program for, either soaking rich parents or for soaking the student loan system. Like, oh, you want to be lazy? You want to do no LSAT prep? You wanna just go straight into law school without even really probably having to do admission like, you just don't even have to really apply, right? You're just kinda, like, automatically, yeah, write us a personal statement, send us your transcripts." But if you're in this law school early acceptance program, like, it's done while you're you're 18 years old, and it's done.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you save 1 year of your bachelor's, but you're you're gonna just keep paying Washburn for, 6 or 7 years instead of 4 or 5 years.
I want to talk about this last question. Do you think I have a moral obligation to tell my advisor the harm she is doing? I don't think you have a moral obligation to do so, but I think if you went and talked to her and explained what your concerns were with the program and showed her the scholarship estimator, you could end up impacting a lot of people from here on out. If she sees what you're saying and shifts gears to try to help people use the estimator to apply to law school, radical change for a lot of people that would be going through Washburn University. Who knows if she'd hear you?
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, she might be somebody who works for the law school
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah. She
and
could
is
be
gonna
either
look at
way,
that and go,
right?
"I know, but that's exactly the scam. Thank you for telling me the scam." You
Yeah.
might ruin your relationship with this person because she might be like, "Oh, you're trying to tell me that what I do is immoral."
Well, I wouldn't go in
Um,
there with like a high road attitude. I
Judgment.
would just say, hey, look, I'm concerned about this because if I keep studying for the LSAT, I could do better. Look at these schools where I could get in with a scholarship. I think that's probably the path I'm going to take. Have you ever used this before? If she's genuinely unaware of these things, then she will probably be very interested. If she is already aware and knows what's going on, then she won't be.
Yeah, I would also like to know, sometimes these programs come with scholarships attached, but I with that LSAT and that GPA,
I don't see how they're paying for that. No,
I
I
don't
think,
see how they're paying for that. No.
yeah, they want you to pay.
Uh, Anonymous G, if you go in and talk to her, I would really love to know what she says,
Yeah,
for sure. That
please.
would be fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
Word of the week, and then we're out of here.
Yeah, word of the week, axiom. This is from test 157, passage 4. It says, in order for any design to be patentable, it must be genuinely a product of invention rather than, say, a law of nature or a logical axiom.
I'm going to guess that from that context, I'm going to guess that law of nature and logical axiom mean almost the exact same thing. I'm going to assume that those two things are because they're contrasting a patentable invention, right?
Hmm.
A genuine product of invention. They're saying rather than a law of nature or a logical axiom. So I think that this is an example of where
They
you
just
definitely
repeat
don't need
themselves.
to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to know the definition of axiom here in order
Hmm.
to understand what they're saying.
Hmm. Hmm.
What they're saying is you can only patent genuine inventions. Like you can't patent uh, gravity.
Hmm. Hmm.
You can't patent I don't know. Maybe you can't patent water is composed of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen
Yeah.
because that's a law of nature, right?
It's not like you invented it.
I think an axiom is a rule.
Yeah.
I think that's what the word means. So I think when they say logical axiom, they just mean logical rule,
Or deduction. Like I almost mean like it's an obvious.
like an inference that is
Yeah.
just so clear.
Yeah. Like how can you claim that you invented it?
Like if something doesn't happen in the AM, well, then it must happen in the PM.
I've discovered
That's
that.
a
Yeah.
logical axiom. Like you
Yeah.
can't patent that. That's not, yeah, like just things that are just obviously deductible using logic.
Hmm.
Probably should say deducible, huh? Anyway, I think it means rule.
Well, I feel like axiom means rule, but I don't know if I'm getting that from the context of this sentence or just my familiarity with the word. But yeah, let's look it up.
Merriam-Webster, established 1828. First definition, a statement accepted as true as the basis for argument or inference. And it gives a synonym there as postulate.
Okay.
But the second definition is an established rule or principle or a self-evident truth.
I think that's the definition. Well, that's the definition you gave. And I think that's the one self evident truth. I think that's the one I think I'm
Yeah.
more familiar with. An axiom.
Well, especially because they're saying logical axiom, right?
Mhm.
So in that sense, well, the second definition, yeah. So in the example here, if you were to cite the axiom, quote, no one gives what he does not have, it's like, yeah, no shit. You can't patent that because if you don't have it, how could you give it? It's obvious that if you don't have it, you can't give it. Ah, okay. So logical axiom means logical rule means just something in this context means something that is just kind of obvious from
Or
fact.
self evident.
Just
Yeah.
self-evident. Yeah. Self-evident truth.
Hmm.
Cool. That's the word of the week. Thanks, Eric, for putting together these agendas. We're getting tons of good feedback about our what's the deal with series. So I really appreciate all of Eric's hard work digging up those details.
Yeah.
And thank you for writing in. If you want to know what the deal is with any law school, just hit us up at thinkinglsat.com. You can be LSAT famous, share news, or ask questions on our website. You can also find us on the socials at LSAT Demon. If you have questions about LSAT Demon, please email help@lsatdemon.com. Check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. We've got over 1,000 episodes over there on that feed. So if you like Thinking LSAT, there's a lot more where that's coming from on LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 488 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.